Tulips are really very beautiful and can be satisfying when you have to pick them up yourself and inhale their scents. But this only works if you grow your tulips in a garden at the back of your house or in flower pots on your window. Planting them and picking them up becomes a whole different deal when it's being produced in mass. However, mass production doesn't have to be less satisfying than a limited production. It's got an advantage after all. It helps combat the growing demand for tulips by putting out more in the market. Thanks to modern machines built suitably for the task, tulip production can be both swift, efficient, and most of all, satisfying. Keep your fingers crossed because you're about to see how these modern machines do it. John Deere 8370 RT plowing with a press. Sometimes, after carrying out various agricultural processes on your farm, the land's just not the same as you'd want it to be. There'll be soil clots, tiny pockets of space in the earth, and uneven terrain. All these factors are things that could create complications to smooth farming. Therefore, the soil needs to be flattened again to return it to a workable state. A press will get this done wonderfully well, but since it's a pulled implement, the efficiency of the process will depend on the tractor being used. This is where the John Deere comes in. The John Deere 8370 RT sets out to deliver on its promises with amazing specifications. Boasting an engine with up to 400 horsepower, the tractor can pull the press, providing constant optimum performance as it powers through the day. It uses a dual-pump hydraulic system that pumps 321 litres per minute, which contributes immensely to a smooth operation. In its cab design, the John Deere pushed successfully to give the operator maximum comfort, visibility, and functionality. The operator can sit comfortably through hours of the pressing process, interacting with the tractor through the integrated computer system of the monitor and keeping a close eye on the pressing demands of the tractor so it can be adjusted suitably. The tractor's got a 360-degree stadium-style lighting. It's both powerful and covers every parcel of the farmland, so you can continue pressing even when it gets dark. Holland T7030 Plowing and Planting Tulip Bulbs. The new Holland T7030 can be quite effective and quick when plowing and planting tulip bulbs. For one, it's equipped to carry varying rows of plowing and planting equipment, thus allowing you to achieve more in a day. Its 156 horsepower engine makes sure that the entire process remains at the best performance throughout the time you'd be needing it. To make the plowing and planting process much easier, the T7030 comes with different optional front axles: the TerraGlide front axle and the Super Steer front axle. The Super Steer front axle offers an additional 19 degrees pivot to the wheel's pivot capacity of 46 degrees. This enables the tractor to turn quickly when it needs to, cutting down on time. The TerraGlide front axle, on the other hand, offers 4.3 inches of travel, boosting the tractor's traction and the quality of the ride. The T7030 has dropped the ball in your court. You get to choose how you want your plowing and planting process to go. The fuel tank is large enough to contain 439.8 litres of fuel. This allows you to work for a considerable length of time before stopping for a refill, and in extension, allows you to plow more land or plant more tulip bulbs in a shorter amount of time. The hydraulic system contains 100.3 litres of hydraulic fuel, giving you enough hydraulics to get the tractor's machinery working smoothly. The cab is also equipped to make operation comfortable. It's got heat and air conditioning for a start, and there's even an option for a deluxe cab that has an air ride heated seat, heated mirrors, and automatic temperature control. If the machine is strong enough and the operator does not need to leave because of tiresome conditions in the cab, the returns for plowing and planting tulip bulbs per day will be high. Irrigation. The time's long since passed when farmers had to wait for the rain to water plants. Of course, if you've got a water source nearby, you can create channels to direct water from there to your farmland. But what if you don't? Tulip farms are too large to water with your hand, but Kifco and Keller Technic AG are well equipped to handle irrigation for your tulip farms. They've got water reels for varying models that can be pulled by tractors, and they come with an attached rain gun, which is also mobile. These water reels are easy to use regardless of their appearance. It's also possible to adjust the speed of the water so that you can keep an eye on the runtime and application depth. The reels or pipes can also be automatically withdrawn. The sprinkler shuts down. In all, it saves you the stress of having to do these things manually. The rain gun makes it possible to irrigate large acres at a time. These companies also offer options for different farmland irrigation demands. Some tulip farms are larger than others, and as such demand irrigation equipment that can cover as many acres as possible. Therefore, there are water reels and rain guns for large tulip farms, and those for smaller ones. The water reels can be equipped with turbines, gas engines, electric motors, and bellows. There aren't many automated irrigation machines out there. This is why Kifco and Keller Technic AG are stapled irrigation implements to use on your tulip farm. Challenger Rogator for spraying. Remember when I said there wasn't much automated spraying and irrigation equipment out there? Well, the Challenger Rogator happens to fit itself into this tiny list. And from its appearance, you'd know that the machine wasn't built for trivialities. In size, it trumps the Kifco and Keller Technic AG. And from the name alone, you can tell it's going to be a huge transformer-like machine. But it's just large enough to sprinkle efficiently. It weighs 12.5 tons, and its sprinkler system is built on arms that can retract and fold on top of itself when it's not in use. However, when it's in use, these arms spread out on each side like an eagle soaring in the sky. Only the Challenger has a wider wingspan than the Eagle could ever hope to get. This wide wingspan enables it to sprinkle over large acres of farmland as the machine moves. It can travel at up to 40 km per hour, which is nothing in a sports car. But who needs a sports car on a farm? 40 km per hour is enough to get the Challenger around the farm in record time, spraying as it goes along. With 228 horsepower, the Rogator makes itself one of the most reliable and high-performing spraying machines out there. Its spraying arms can cover up to 30 meters at one go. It has a 6,000-liter tank, which offers enough water to cover large acres of land before there's a need to refill. The pump works at an average speed of 784 liters per minute, so there's no doubt about the power on the boom sprinklers and how much depth they can reach. Topping. Tulip topping is the process of cutting off tulip heads to foster better flower growth. If you want your tulips to be one of the best in the market, you have to cut off the flowers as soon as it's in full bloom. In doing this, energy reserved for the flower reverts to the flower bulb, making the new flower much better than the previous one. It's been a process that has sat well with farmers, mostly because it's ripe with benefits. However, it's one thing to top your tulips and another to do it well. Thankfully, there are machines out there that can not only handle tulip topping efficiently, but also do it to your satisfaction. The Gason Topper is one such machine. Its cutting width ranges from 2.4 meters to 3.6 meters. It mixes high speed with clean cutting to enable more ground coverage. Most times, heavy machinery leaves wheel marks on the farm during operation. However, the cutting design of the Gason Topper cleans the wheel marks as it goes, giving your farmland that clean and smooth look. The new Holland T6160 is also another high-performing tulip topper and has a 163 max engine horsepower to match. The 174.9-litre tank is sufficient enough to allow it to cover large acres of land before having to refill. Its tight turning feature makes it easy to maneuver and makes the topping process a lot easier. It's also got 3 loader options. This allows you to attach implements of any height, reach, and capacity. The Ploger AR4W Earth Eater Tulip Bulb Harvester. The Ploger AR4W is a self-propelled harvester with 3 or 4 row bunkers, highly efficient at harvesting tulip heads. The sieving area is one of its major highlights, as the chassis bordering the sieving webs allow tulip heads to flow in freely without obstacles or fear of them jumbling together. The transport speed is designed to match the requirement of the harvesting process, so that the machine can avoid dropping a lot of tulip bulbs during harvesting. Though there are 2 sieving webs, there are other options for a 3rd web and an axial roller. You can also add 4 or 8 roller separators if you like. It helps make the harvesting process quicker and easier. The transmission between gear and speed is fluid and fully hydrostatic. To make for efficient harvesting, the machine has a field speed and a road speed. The field speed matches the demands of harvesting tulip bulbs and ensures that everything comes out in the tip-top condition. It also has controllable front and back axles to enhance the tractor's strength and control even when land conditions are tough. The Ploger AR4W also has a wide-necked elevator that can be controlled to hover into trailers to allow the tulip bulbs to drop smoothly without damage from the impact. There is also a buffer hopper that allows the Ploger to keep harvesting even when it is dropping tulips into trailers. The bunker harvester boasts a hopper capacity of approximately 12 tons, and it also comes with a filling belt that has an automatic drop control. Tulip bulb harvester. When it comes to tulip bulb harvesting, there aren't very many companies that do it like Veninga Hike and Bloembollen. They grow approximately 30 acres of tulips every year. They plant the tulip bulbs in the autumn of every year and harvest the fully grown bulbs in June and July. They grow about 10 different types of tulips. When it's time to harvest, they use tulip growers to carry out part of the harvesting process. These tulip growers turn the tulips into flowers, and some of them end up in gardens or parks. Ronico harvesting tulip bulbs. Ronico is one of the best tulip producers in the world. They've been doing this for over 75 years now. So you can imagine that they have the highest confidence and knowledge of what tulip growing and harvesting entails. It's even more interesting that they're a family-based company. It means the art of tulip growing has been passed down as an heirloom through generations. The harvesting process is carried out in-house just as much as the growth of tulips or any other process. They make regular investments in new techniques to ensure that the most convenient, efficient, and effective harvesting procedures are what they employ for their tulips. They harvest and produce dry bulbs, which can be forced to bloom whenever a customer wishes. They harvest almost 100 million tulip flowers from December to May and sell them off for retail. These flowers come in 8 different colors, so the customers can have their pick. They also make bouquets and harvest tulips that are semi-grown and can be put in greenhouses. They grow their procedures just as much as they grow tulips, so you can be guaranteed that their tulip harvesting process is immensely satisfying. Tulip bulbs washing and processing. After mass harvesting tulip bulbs, that's not the end of the process. They still need to go through washing and processing before they become marketable. I bet you didn't know flowers had to be washed, right? Well, when tulip bulbs are mass harvested, a lot of dirt clings to its body. There's no way they can be sold with all that dirt, so washing becomes part of its processing. It starts from the wet pre-cleaning process, where the newly harvested tulips are loaded into water. After that, they're carried out of the water onto conveyor belts and begin another stage called de-wetting. Here the moisture is retracted from the tulips. Then they're conveyed off to the next stage, dry pre-cleaning. Just like the name suggests, these tulips are cleaned without water. After that, they're processed into dry bulbs or whatever the final forms they're meant to take. Then they're sorted into packages and shipped off. Forcing process of the tulips. The forcing process of tulips may seem difficult at first because of the abnormality of keeping a flower's bloom at your discretion. However, once the entire process is laid bare, it's not that difficult. The number one rule about the forcing process is that you can force a tulip to bloom earlier, not later. Tulips normally bloom during spring, but it's only possible to force one to bloom before its normal time, not after spring. The next rule would be to select varieties of tulips that are suitable for forcing. There are several varieties of tulips, but not all of them force bloom properly. Some of the suitable varieties are Triumph tulip, double early tulips, species tulips, and single early tulips. When it's time to force the tulip, it must be stuck in the soil before you move on to the pre-chilling process. The soil must be good at retaining moisture while also promoting the growth of the flower. Afterward, the flowers are placed in a cooling unit and stay at a constant temperature between 35 degrees and 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The aim of the pre-chilling is for the flowers to produce good root systems. After 12 to 14 weeks, The tulips are brought out of the chilling condition and gradually put under varying degrees of sunlight. This way, the plant gets acclimatized to the sun, avoiding any risks of damage altogether. Tulip forcing at Boone & Bragg. Boone & Bragg are one of the leading tulip companies in the world when it comes to tulip forcing. It's been located in Andix since 1979, and they have been perfecting their tulip production and forcing techniques since then. Now the process is entirely automated. Even the water supply is automated. The automation of the water supply is also responsible for 99% of the water recycled. The tulips move through self-automated machinery in the greenhouse. People have to get involved during the start to put them in all the crates, but afterward, all forms of human intervention ceases. 3 weeks later, everything is packaged and ready to be shipped out. The water, though recycled, is always clean and is infused with oxygen, chlorine, and 8 different fertilizers, all to create beautiful and robust tulip flowers. In addition to the water and fertilizer, they also control the temperature of the greenhouse so that they can also keep a finger on how much time the flowers need to bloom. For instance, at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the tulips will be ready to bloom in 6 weeks. At 60 degrees, it'll be ready to bloom in 4 weeks. The Burcom X Furora is one of the top tulip bunching machines in the world. It's got various models for sorting and bunching tulip flowers. The Furora Compact and Furora Nova among others. Single flowers are transported from the singling unit into the grippers and then onto the bunching station. The machine has an integrated camera technology called the Vision Module, which it uses to scan the flowers as they pass. This camera technology can measure the length, quality, and stem of each flower. The machine remembers what it has scanned and cuts off leaves and flowers accordingly, so that they can be brought to the right bunching station. After that, the bunches are bound together. The Furora machines are highly efficient because they're automatic. Human personnel only need to put unsorted flowers on the belt and leave everything else for the machine. The machine uses eyes, just like humans, to judge the quality of every single flower that passes through the camera lens. It may be doing what humans would have done, but the difference lies in the results. The work of the Furora machines is accurate, efficient, and fast. However, the machine does not come with preloaded sorting criteria. Human personnel still need to input all that into the integrated Burcom X computer software. The software itself is easy to use, making for a perfect outcome. The flowers are also counted by the machines so that the flowers are always at the right number. Ultimately, at the end of the bunching process, the flowers are bound by CRM binders and are ready to go out. Tulip harvesting. Tulip harvesting is one of the most delicate parts of tulip production. The flowers are fully grown, the petals are in full bloom, and you want to ensure that they remain unscathed when they're pulled out. Therefore, you have to make sure you have just the right machine. Tulips come into full bloom naturally during spring. When the flowers bloom, they're cut off in a process called topping. Tractors are used for this too, making the entire process quick and neat. When this is done, the energy meant for the flowers is rechanneled to the tulip bulb, bolstering its growth and health. When it's time for the harvesting, a harvester will come around for that. It pulls the tulip bulbs out of the ground along with the soil, and then shakes the soil off through the sieving webs, leaving behind just the tulip bulbs. After this, the bulbs are collected in boxes and transported away from the farm to the processing plant. There, it'll be sorted, cleaned, and packaged. When farmers need to harvest tulips for the value of their flowers alone, they're cut from the stem, leaving the bulbs and leaves on the ground. As the stems are being cut, they're packaged in boxes and then taken to a plant where they're also sorted and bunched, depending on what they are to be used for. Tulip harvesting in gardens and small farms cannot be compared to harvesting in open fields. For once, you can easily harvest tulips with your hand on small farms, and you're almost always going to need the flowers. Tulip field. Tulip fields can be one of the most exciting spectacles in the world because they're most often visually stunning, especially when there are different types of colours of tulips growing on the same field. It's like a burst of colour. A greater percentage of the tulip fields in the world are located in Holland. Most tulip farms here can be found in the Noordoostpolder in the province of Flevoland. There are also other fields along the coast of The Hague, Leiden, and towards Alkmaar in the north. The tulips are usually arranged in rows according to their colours and variants. You might not notice the colours, not until the flowers start to bloom. From the ground, the burst is noticeable, but when you get a bird's view, it's even more exciting. Imagine a whole field adorned with strips of yellow, red, pink, and so on. It's so beautiful that most people don't come to the Netherlands without taking a look at these fields. Farmers can even make the whole thing more exciting by arranging the rows in curly patterns. So instead of seeing the straight rows of colourful tulips, you'll be seeing whirls of varying colours across enormous sheets of land. If there's one thing we all know about the Netherlands, it's that they don't spare land when it comes to growing tulips. Do you think there are other places on the map that beats the Netherlands when it comes to tulip production? Do you think there are other machines worth noting? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Drop a like if you haven't, and hit the subscribe and notification buttons. You can't afford to miss out on any of our videos.